Welcome back. Episode 82 of the Ground Up Podcast. 2063, the white British will be a minority in Britain.
You've got homeless people right now that need houses, but that policy blocks that development, which I'm like, that is nuts.
Stage 1, shoot deer and drag it down the mountain.
You were definitely born in the wrong era, Jack.
There's going to be a civil war. It's going to happen.
Down where I grew up, you'd use violins as golf clubs.
Every year, governments just get smaller and smaller and smaller for the next 100 years.
Terrible suit choice, though, Jack. I mean, brown suit, what was you thinking?
Choose Jesus Christ, the Prophet Muhammad, and Genghis Khan.
I wouldn't want all the rabble like Dorian there. That would be one of my conditions.
Housing market is crashing. Good luck.
Asylum seekers are more likely to get housed 5 times over before a war veteran is.
Housing is and should be a right to all citizens. So mass private ownership to make a margin is just greed.
I thought Dorian was going to play his bagpipes for a minute's silence.
We bring in these policies, make ourselves not competitive, and then we pay other countries that don't abide by those policies. I mean, what the fuck?
Ground up sound, ooh, yeah. Real estate deals, we lay them down, let's get those deals. Deals, making money, baby.
Welcome back. Episode 82 of the Ground Up Podcast. Today, we've got a three-piece. Stuart's still moving house. If you don't know who we are, we've got Dorian Payne. We've got Jack Jiggins. Usually have Stuart Wife, but he's not here. And myself, Wright Beaumont. We are the Ground Up Podcast for property developers and business owners in the UK, delivering hundreds of millions of pounds worth of property developments, loads of service-based businesses as well. We employ a lot of staff, and every week we just try and help provide any useful nuggets we can, fully transparent. We answer questions from our audience as well, so please submit your questions. If you want to stick them on the YouTube comments, then that's probably the best way for us to be able to screenshot them, get back to you on the next episode. Subscribe, it really helps us out. And today we are going to be going through Q&As that we've been given, quite a variety of Q&As that we've been handed over the past few weeks. So thank you for everyone who has done so. Just to start this episode, we're actually recording this on a Sunday, and it is Remembrance Sunday. As we remember those who fought for the great battle of Britain in World War II, and ultimately those gave their lives to give us our freedom. And on that note, this week there was, I can't remember his second name, but Alec, a war veteran, 100 years old, who fought in the war and had many of his comrades and brothers die. And he said in his own words in that interview that he didn't feel like the fight for freedom was worth it based on where the country has gotten to and what it's becoming, which is just so telling. I don't know if you guys want to speak to that. Have you got anything to say? Starting light. Starting light, boys.
I thought Dorian was going to play his bagpipes for a minute's silence.
Come on, D.
You're learning the bagpipes, aren't you, Stu?
Stu.
Stu. Dorian, piano, swimming, tennis.
I tried to find a coach for it in Wales, but there isn't one. So I put it on pause. I tell you what, actually, interesting fact about me. What do you reckon was the first instrument I wanted to learn growing up?
Violin.
Drums.
No, it was actually the French horn.
Wow,
French
there you
horn.
go.
What's wrong with you?
Right, did you play
I don't
any
want to get laid.
Mate, I don't think you realise the French horn players in bands are the ones dripping in it. Oh, sorry, cut that.
To answer your question, Jack, no, I didn't. I didn't learn any instruments growing up.
I was going to say we could get the band together because Dorian, you can play the guitar, can't you?
I can play the guitar and piano, my friend.
Yeah, I can play the drums.
Oh,
I mean, you literally have a guitar in your backdrop.
yeah, I know. It's all for show. I can play a little bit, but not great.
I thought Jack could play like the cello or the violin or something, type of community that he grew up in. Probably you see all the school kids walk into class with the grand violin passed down from generations.
Yeah.
It's a pastime for Jack, like the Pied Piper with his cello.
Down where I grew up, you'd use violins as golf clubs.
I feel like you guys have avoided the question here, guys. We're talking about the demise of our country.
What was the question?
I think the interview was amazing, and I think it's a wake-up call that this country needs, and hopefully should start a bit of a movement from a war veteran standpoint. Like I feel that they're the backbone of what this country was built off and represented, and I feel that we are losing our way. I think we've talked about that before on the pod. And I do hope it does cause a bit of, ruffle a few feathers. And they're the people to do it. They don't really give a monkeys. They're, towards the end of their life, they can see what's happening because they've got more grey hairs than all of us. And I hope it does start a bit of a movement with, us banding together and trying to fight for our country to come back. I mean, we're this is not us being. It's very easy to point the finger and say, well, you're just pushing the blame or whatever it may be, or don't understand the context of what asylum seeking. But the actual definition of asylum seeking has hugely changed. Asylum seeking used to be defined as obviously asyluming to avoid being killed or being at risk at war. But a lot of our country is sort of going back to their original country for holidays. Now that's not really asyluming. So hopefully it starts a bit of a movement. I think the biggest issue I have is just what we're currently doing is not sustainable. It's leaning on the UK taxpayer, but then bringing in a non-working labour force that is not then self-sustaining itself, if that makes sense. If this was a forever funding model where, asylum seekers come to asylum, but they've got a roadmap of how they pay for that. Like when we go to university, we take a student loan and we have to pay that back. There isn't that such place for other people coming into the country. So, and the stat is crazy of asylum seekers are more likely to get housed 5 times over before a war veteran is. And you can kind of see where this Alec is coming from in that context, because he might have fellow people that have represented in the war that now don't have anything. They don't have, 2 pennies to rub together, or a roof over their head. So I rate him. I like the geezer. I'd love to go to the pub with him if he's up for it. If you're listening, Alec, see you down the pub.
Geezer. Yeah, mate, it's crazy. Like another mad stat is London. Yeah, the this whole concept of multiculturalism, which basically just means you have no culture and we're going to wash you out of all your culture. We are white British culture first and foremost. That is what the country was built off. That was how the Magna Carta was founded. That was the concept of maintenance and maintaining a society. We exported that around the world and uplifted the world. Literally, we are the nation that did that. And that's who we are. And over the last few hundred years, they've just eradicated every part, all the pillars of that culture, taking away our ability to be proud and white and British. They've taken that away. They took that away, obviously, after all the sort of racial stuff that came out during the 20th century. Now they're attacking our faith and Christianity. And now they're now introducing new laws from other cultures to erode our judicial system, which is upheld by our white Christian culture that was founded originally. And it's just like that. It's a complete attack on who we are. And the London statistics are crazy. In the 70s, 3% of London was ethnic minority. The rest was white British. Now 36% of London is white British. The rest is a concoction of ethnic minorities. And by 2063, the white British will be a minority in Britain, which is like crazy. Like that's mental. That's mental. Like I don't know how we've let that happen. As in, when I say we, I don't know how the British people are letting and have let that happen. But I don't think it will last for much longer because of the Alex, because of the Ant Middletons, because of the Rupert Lows. Shout out Rupert Lowe. I'm doing everything I can to try and get in the door of Restore Britain, which is kind of like a marketing angle that they've set up for a political party. And I'm like, I want to help guys. So I'm hounding them on emails and DMs just to try and get their attention. I'm like, let me help. Let me do something that I can. Because I can see their marketing strategy needs a bit of work. It's a little bit sort of sloppy and all over the place. And I'm like, we can make this so much better.
An example of taking over, like you say, Dorian, is I was chatting to my wife about there's 2 towns in Michigan which have been essentially infiltrated and overtaken in a population capacity by Muslims. and the 85% of the police force are Muslims, and there's a curfew in the city. I think it's between Saturday afternoon and Monday morning, where you're not allowed to do construction works. You're not allowed to have festivals and gigs without a consent, like a planning consent. But they play their praying anthem, however many times it is a day, through that curfew, and it's actually been passed that they can do that now. So it's overtaken.
Fucking mental, mate.
So basically, whatever the rest of the population wants to do in that city now can't do what they it's kind of like eye for an eye. Can't do what they would do on Saturday afternoon and Sunday to play music, or it could be anything, large sports event, or and obviously Americans born off sports events. They have some of the largest sports events in the world, just and that are only played in the USA, but they push them around those curfew to work around it. And that's a complete culture shift. That those two major cities are now completely, minority American and actually out of their control to some degree.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like the Christmas lights and stuff in a lot of towns in the UK, Sheffield being one of them now, where the Muslim councillors or Muslim mayors that have gotten in are trying to ban those things, like Christmas lights, because obviously the connotation to Christianity, and it's just like it's an attack. It's like this is an invasion, and the people, there's going to be a civil war. Like it's going to happen. Like it just will happen because there's so many angry people.
That's why you've got your bow and arrow, isn't it?
Yep, no, not bow and arrow, mate. I've got crossbow. That's for self-defense, just in case it gets to a point where you need to fend for your own food. I can pull down a deer or something. You know what I mean?
How many deer are around where you are?
Mate, loads. We got the moors, we got the dales, we got the Lake District. There's loads of deer up here, mate. It's beautiful country up in the northeast. If not, I'll go Richmond Park. More consolidated, a bit easier.
Nice.
But yeah, I
shot a deer when I was 11 years old.
You shot one? What, just for fun or culling?
I shot one in Scotland, like proper stalking gig. Walked 24 miles with a rifle on my back and shot a deer.
Did you eat it?
Part of our upbringing in our family, you got to shoot deer and drag it down the mountain. Stage one.
What did you do with it though? Did you eat it or?
The meat gets, because we're in Scotland, you do eat venison quite a lot up there, but you sell the meat to the butchers. Well, the keeper does. But I kept the head. I've got the head. It's a 12-pointer head.
Is it?
With the date on it as well. So
is that going up in your new house? Yeah, going to go up on the mantle.
Yeah, we've got a few heads.
Got a few heads, yeah. Class,
one from every country they visited. The Jiggins family, that's they take an empty suitcase with them for bringing something back.
My favourite is actually I like ivory is good. Got a good collection of ivory, and also shark fins. Like eating shark fins.
Tell you what, mate, you were definitely born in the wrong era, Jack.
I'm joking. Both of those are a joke. I've not got a single piece of ivory in my collection.
A couple of generations ago, you would have fit right in. Top hat, pipe, ivory collection, and shark fin soup.
Can I touch on something else as well? Yeah. Have you guys been sitting? I've banged on about this for years, and there's records of me on this podcast banging on about it, that the whole climate change, global warming stuff is a hoax. And have you seen what's been coming out of like some of these experts going against the UN, saying, "Where's the water rising, guys? The Maldives are still here. The temperature gauges are obviously sustainable. There's no sign of global warming increase and all this stuff." Have you guys been seeing more of this coming out into the mainstream media conversation now? I just wonder what the consequence is, because obviously energy costs in the UK are a massive issue with net zero targets, and like, have you guys been seeing this as well?
Yeah, I think the main public change is actually Bill Gates sort of calling it out,
because he needs energy for his data centers. That's why.
When I read Bill Gates's statement, he's not denouncing it. He's just saying, which I agree with him. I mean, look, guys, climate change is a bit of common sense, right? Whether you look at the stuff we've done, but I've always said,
no,
and
it's
I
not.
agree with
no,
Bill Gates. It's not an emergency. Wait there, Ryan. Let me finish. It's not an emergency like poverty, ill health, and disease, which clearly is an emergency today. And for example, you've got things like in Wales where they've got policies driven for environment and climate change change, but you've got homeless people right now that need houses, but that policy blocks that development, which I'm like, that is nuts. Like, that is nuts. That's not how you deal with. It's not how you deal with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's the first part of that statement that has to be reframed in the public narrative. Climate change is an absolute fact. It's an absolute fact. It's always changed for millions and millions of years. Like, the question really is: are human beings disproportionately causing an effect on climate change for to the negative detriment of future generations? Is that a fact? Now, they've said it for nearly 100 years. Did you know they said in the early 20th century, they said that because of what we're doing, there's going to be a global freezing, that the world is going to get too cold for inhabitants. Then it's going to get too warm, and now it's not an issue because the global elites need energy.
I am with you on it all, definitely. What I'm saying is it's always changed, and all we should be doing is, as a globe, is try, not obviously doing but the problem I got is, like, look at take UK. We bring in these policies, make ourselves not competitive, and then we pay other countries that don't abide by those
Yes.
policies. I mean, what the how stupid can you
Yeah,
be?
mental.
How is that
Mhm.
helping anything?
I think there's a happy medium, right? You've got on one hand, you've got like China, who just pump all their plastic into the sea and don't give an absolute monkeys. And actually, I spent 3 weeks in Guangzhou, and it was like height of summer. Didn't see the sun once because the smog around the city was so bad. So I think I kind of agreeing with you, Ryan, but also saying there is there is a route where we can take to be considerate of
Yeah.
just actually causing damage for the sake of it. The way I see it is a cultivated farm field, right? If you're in a car and you need to cross a field, there's a way to do it, and you can sort of try and be as least damaging to the grass that's on it. Or you could do what China does and just continuously doing donuts around it, not giving a monkeys because it's more fun. So I think that there's like a consideration level, but I do think that it's significantly overforced on that.
Yeah.
What obviously climate change, what their tact is, and a friend of mine actually works in. I can't really reveal too much in a place in government that kind of helped strategize around the COVID changes, and he was telling me that because of the Boris Johnson announcements and the everyone staying at home and blah blah, they have to over exaggerate because 40% of the population don't listen. So what they're trying to do is like scaremonger so that the 60% that do outweigh the 40% that don't. So when it comes to climate change, it's not like, right, so if we need to improve 1%, 1% every week for the next 100 weeks, they'll try and increase it by 3%, 3% a month to try and scaremonger and create more radical change, which obviously isn't. But what you're saying is the goal is inaccurate or wrong. But I think habits should get better. I think we should be splitting up our recycling. I think we should be being considerate and trying to make more eco-friendly homes, and even though fossil fuels might be essential in some areas, see if we can create off-grid living with homes, because why not? It's obviously there's so much unstuckled theory with like battery cars, and yeah, they are really efficient to run, and the creation of that energy is fairly clean, but what happens to the batteries? And there's never ever been any transparent evidence on that.
It's still, I just think everything comes back. Like, I agree. Obviously, pollution, environmental damage, and things like that. Those are known factors. Like, we can quite easily measure those. It's the whole idea of, you know, like trying to deliberately affect our climate with all this stuff they do with putting chemicals in the atmosphere to try and control the rainfalls and things like that, which I think is just mental. Shouldn't be something that's allowed. They've been doing that for the last 60 years. But global warming, this whole concept of global warming, that's the bit I disagree with. Yes, obviously, there's a way to extract minerals from the ground and do it in an environmentally conscious way, and then there's a way to do it that's just super messy, and which is why I think even more reason we should be doing it, because we've got the best standards. Same with America, things like that.
I think we're all in agreement that you can achieve goals and be conscious about it, and but ultimately, and it's just agreeing with you there, Ryan. The really annoying thing for me every time I hear about it is a lot of people, even activists and campaigners, global warming. And then if you just look at either what they're wearing or some of what they're using, a lot of it's come from China, and you're like, so you can't
Yeah.
can't be a
Yeah.
hypocrite if because what we do in the UK, we do a lot of emissions like transferring or whatever. We think we're green, but then we buy in bulk loads, and the imports are only increasing from carbon countries. I'll give you one quick example as well, because I've done this before. We bought a building and got planning permission on it, and we had to strip it out, and it was an old tire depot, and it was full of tires. I was like, right, call up hauliers and like, oh, nobody can take them basically. And I'm like, fuck, it's a specialist thing. It's got banned in the UK for I'm oversimplifying here. There's going to be people listening to this saying I'm saying something wrong, but I'm just quickly simplifying because this is what happened. Anyway, I struggled to get somebody to collect it, and in the end we got someone who was a specialist, and it cost a fortune. And I said, what do you do with these tires? They said, oh, well, we can't burn them and reuse them in the UK because there's because the emissions level, the laws prohibit it in the UK. So what we'll do is we'll send them over to India and they'll burn them over there. I'm thinking, what the like,
Yeah.
like
It's wild. And that speaks to a point, just touching on what Jack said as well about, yes, we should be splitting out our recycling and things like that. But it's kind of and I agree, because obviously there's some things you just can't, packaged goods that you just can't get away from. But look at things like food, right? Then there's so much waste on packaging and transport costs and all this stuff that comes with food. And ultimately, a lot of the sovereignty and just the business side of farming and localized food resource has been completely disintegrated by over regulation. Again, government coming in and destroying things and then creating new regulations to try and prevent the new things that the old things that they destroyed, and then new layers, and it's just one big mess of over regulation and bureaucracy. And that just leads to more and more inefficiencies, because if you could locally source food, you wouldn't need all these packages. If farmers were allowed to sell direct to consumer, yes, there needs to be food standards and audits and things like that. Of course, there does need to be, but they've taken it so far and have made it so impossible for the local farmers to be able to sustain local people with a good food supply that it has to all go to the big multinationals and the supermarkets that then give you like 3 crisps per packet, and that packet has a box that it comes in, and that box comes in a van, and that comes from a shipping container, and it's just all this crazy and it introduces all this consumerism of bad food that you shouldn't really be eating, that otherwise wouldn't be available if we locally sourced our food with fresh produce, which would also help with things like diabetes and the general health of the public. It would bring down costs on the NHS. And there's such a knock-on effect to these poor regulations that have come in that ossify the small business. Again, we're small business owners. We're seeing this happen in the property space now as they try and institutionalize property. They're driving out the smaller players, and that just means that the overregulation leads to more waste and inefficiencies as the big incumbents come in. Everything comes back to just overregulation and government being too big for what it is. It needs to be smaller. Just like every year, governments just get smaller and smaller and smaller for the next 100 years until it's just that perfect equilibrium where it's an apparatus that protects us, and that's it. Doesn't need to do all this other.
Just Boris Johnson's grandson you play paddle with every other week.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I like paddle. So,
I mean, I would completely buy all of my weekly shop if I could get it all locally. All we need is vegetables, milk, eggs, steak, and bread. I actually went out for dinner with the wife yesterday, and she was saying we were walking along the high street, not actually in Henley, before there's some sort of posh joke from Dorian there. It's actually an even posher place called Marlow.
I would never do that.
So we're walking along High Street, and Kelly was like, "Is that a house there on the High Street?" I was like, "Yeah, well, back in the day, there used to be a butcher's, some sort of dairy place that was selling milk, and a bakery, and probably not a lot else other than pubs. And that's all you needed on the High Street. That house is probably 600 years old and will always be a house." And I thought to myself, what an amazing world that would be if all we could do was go out for a drink or to buy bread, milk, or meat. I would love that. If there was a little town that recreated that, I would be interested in moving back there. I wouldn't want all the rabble like Dorian there. That would be one of my conditions.
I think we can get back to that, mate. I think this country particularly
Ground up town.
Well, I don't know if we should build it. We've got to legislate. It's got to be legislated top down to allow for farmers to be able to.
Yeah, we'll just put a covenant on the whole whole
All of it.
town. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Easy to do, mate. Blanket. It needs
No
to be done then, man.
electricity.
Like,
No
'cause, like,
electricity. Things can only be pulled around by mules.
yeah, maybe not. Maybe not
Going
so
back to the
efficient.
1800s there. Oh,
I think you'd sell out. I think it would be really popular if you could have like a fairly backward.
what would you do about internet?
Oh, you'd be allowed internet. You need internet.
Oh,
Yeah.
you
But
would,
the
would
thing
you?
is with
Right,
internet
so
is it's not visible. It's not a visible change, right? A road, a paved tarmac road is a visible, that's not in keeping. But Wi-Fi, believe it or not, is invisible. You can't see it.
Yes, I mean, I'm appreciating your satirical
I can
answer,
see
but I
it.
am deadly serious. Like, I think that we're losing our pubs, we're losing the local bobby, we've lost like the local people, the butchers, the this, the that, the post office. It's just all going, and it's getting replaced for all this commercial or shawarmas and all this other stuff. Like, our just culture and our sovereignty is getting washed out by multinationals.
This is just Darwin. This is just typical
No, it's
Darwin
regulation.
evolution, guys. Don't
No,
worry
it's
about
not.
it.
It's
Don't worry about
tyrannical
it.
over-regulation.
We're on the
I agree with Dorian
precipice
to
of a
some
new
degree.
wave.
Pubs don't get used like everyone used to be in the pub at 4:00, and that was everyone. Every family used to be in the pub at 4:00. That's not the way of living nowadays. So pubs, I think, should be less and fewer. You just have the majority of people in pubs now are just alkies in the week.
I don't know if you can say that though, because I did agree with that.
Have you been to a Weatherspoons recently, Ryan?
Oh, there you go. But if you look at, I mean, pubs are still a big thing up here, by the way. In the north, there's still pubs that are active everywhere. It's still quite a community-led thing. That there are a lot of pubs up here. I think in the south, that real estate's been.
I'll demolish them soon. Give me 10 years.
I've converted a few of them, so I'm sort of a culprit as well. But if you think about like why has the pub failed? Is it because people don't want a pub, or is it because you can no longer smoke in a pub? Is it because you can no longer be in the pub beyond a certain hour? Is it because of national insurance and because of business rates and over taxation and regulation that it's hard to commercially run a pub for the culture and the vibrance that it once brought to those local communities? Like, I just don't think it's an easy answer to go culturally we no longer want pubs. I think there's a litany of effects that come from regulation that have squandered the sustainability of pubs for the same reason that they have the local butchers and the local SMEs, because of regulation that favors the incumbents. And I just think that washes the whole way down. It's not Darwinian.
Pubs aren't going to go. It's just the volume of them. I mean, what Jack is referring to, which I agree with, is back in the day, there was a pub on every corner, but you just don't need that anymore. Like, there's just too much other stuff we have going for us. And it is a blend. It is a blend of Darwinism. I mean, it is, because look at what just happened with Elon Musk now. His share package has been approved, and he openly said if it didn't get approved, he wouldn't build his robot army. If it gets approved, he is building his robot army. So, and Elon Musk will be building a robot army. I'm 100% sure of it with that. And look at where we're going. Pubs are going to be the least of our problems, Ryan.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I think because you're correlating, a technology driven company making decisions on share price and revolutions on revolutionary technology. I'm talking about culture. Culture within our country. That
Culture will
commune.
change through technological changes. That's
It
they
will,
go
but
hand in hand.
I think it will go. I think it will go the other way, though. I think we're seeing it go the other way now. I think people. I'm one of those people. I don't want a Apple Watch and an Alexa and all these things. I want my mates around me. I want to have a chat. I want to be able to go have a drink. I want commune. I want people. That's what I want. And I think technology is going to push people more and more away into wanting commune. And I think the more robots do things for us, what is left for us? Are we going to keep consuming, or are we going to want people around us? Are we going to want to be able to go to the pub and have a laugh? Like, I think it's going to be a role reversal.
We have talked about, like, I was walking. I got the train after the Future Development event, Ryan, and I walked.
Which you hosted very well. Can I just shout out, Jack? That was good.
Terrible suit choice, though, Jack. I mean, brown suit. What was you thinking?
Mate, so when I walk out my front door, I live in an 1800s village, and there's no brown suits were quite common back then.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Look like a walking
You
turd.
smashing that, mate. It was funny.
I'm joking, Jack. I'm joking. I'm kidding. The reason why I said that, Jack, is I once owned a brown suit, and I had that exact same insult thrown to me because where I'm based, brown suits have never been a common thing.
I
No,
don't think suits are a thing in
they're
Wales.
trendy. They're trendy, mate. Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure Suits is in Wales is just that series on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct.
That invisible
The
Wi-Fi stuff. Yeah.
yeah, this magic.
It just comes into your
I
house.
was-
It's
so
magic. Yeah.
on the train back, the toilet at the front was broken, so I had to walk the whole like 10 carriages to go to use the toilet at the other end. And as I was walking back, I sort of noticed everyone was on it was like a 10 p.m. train. I sort of noticed on the first carriage that everyone was on their phones. And then I walked into the next carriage and everyone's on their phones. And it's just so, think about the community, right? Think about, my nan who would strike a conversation with anyone. Every single person was just like literally glued to their phones because it was a late night train. All their faces were lit up. No one was speaking. No one was even looking at anyone. And it's just, there needs to be a breaking point. And we've discussed it before on this podcast. I think because AI is now pushing a lot of fake stuff, you're not going to believe everything online and there's going to become quite a lot of noise. And I think we need that break. And it's so unhealthy. Like your phone is, so I had an Apple Watch. And I had to not wear it because I was getting like phantom vibrating on my hand, where I think it's vibrating, and I'd look at it and it wasn't. And I've actually completely removed all of my notifications. That if someone sends me an email, or whatever, it doesn't pop up on my phone because it just does my head. You just become this. You just pick it up, look at it, and you just become this slave to the notification. Which is why the 1800 city is a great idea. Let's bring back horse and carriages.
Yes.
I don't wear any technology, and I have all notifications off on my phone as well because even like I'm unplugged really from it. I like to use it, but when I want to use it, I don't want that phantom feeling. I don't want that notification because if I do get a notification, and I am driven to look into it, and like everybody, that's what they're designed for. So I do think we'll be going that way as well. And to be honest with you, Ryan, I was thinking about what you said. If there was a robot army, then yeah, what would we would probably end up grouping together more and going back to that way, to be honest, to bring back the workman's
Maybe the
Yes.
robots might use the pubs.
The robots might like a pint. Well, can I ask you a question? So someone asked me this the other day, yeah? Would you have a robot in your house? If you know it can do the chores, do the cleaning, all that kind of would you have one in your house? I'm a firm no on that. I don't want one in my house.
No. I don't want the first brands, the first generations.
Yeah. Not the malfunctioning ones, no.
If I knew that there was a way to just kill it, if I needed to, I'd have probably like a samurai under the bed just in case I need to halve the thing. I wouldn't mind it. I'd quite like that you could just boss it around and get it to do bits and bobs.
Like the person who quizzed me on this said, like our TVs and other appliances that we kind of get used to in our house, but the difference is a TV can't slit your throat in your sleep.
Doesn't have a brain. Yeah.
It can't grab the knife and just, it's cooking and now it shanked you. Like, and I just don't like the idea that there's something in my house that I can't control that could be hacked. I know they're building all these guardrails, all these safety things and all this kind of stuff, but I just don't want that. I wouldn't sleep well at night, I don't think. And I know I'll probably change my mind in the future, but for now, I'm a firm no on having a robot in my house.
What if it lived outside then?
It could still shank me when I go into the car or something, It could shank my dog up or my cat.
So, yeah, if you live in London, your odds are probably higher in London getting shanked than having a robot in your...
Yeah, but at least I could reason with another human. Okay, well, look, mate, do you want money? If you want money, I'll send you some money.
Can you?
Whereas a robot might just be like, no, I want to kill you because I'm programmed to, I don't know.
Reminds me of that comedian that does. Have you seen Kevin Bridges, that sketch where he said he was at a bus stop in Glasgow and someone opposite says, "Oi, give me a quid or you're getting stabbed." He's like, I love a bargain.
I love a bargain, all right. He's so good, he is, mate. All right, cool. We've had our waffle. Should we get to some Q&As from our lovely audience? So shout out James Reeve, who said the Q&As you used to do in the early episodes were great. Thank you, James. I don't know why we ever really stopped them, to be honest. It wasn't well, we've got the Ground Up Network now. I think that kind of, we get for anyone that doesn't know, little plug. You can check out the link in the description of this podcast, or head to our Instagram bio, click that link, and you can join. Well, you can see our live events that we're doing. We've got a go-karting event coming up probably the same week that this episode is going to be released. And then we've got a Ground Up live event in central London on the 9th of January. So you can get your tickets there, bring some mates, you get discounts. It's not a profiteering exercise for us. We just want to get a load of great people in a room, have a hive mind session, live Q&As. We're going to throw a mic box around the room for anyone who wants to ask stuff to us, host the topics, things like that. It's going to be a great day. But yeah, because of the Ground Up Network, if you want to join that as well, every week we jump on live calls with the network members. We've got nearly 70 people in there now. And I think we get a lot of that back and forth there, but we will bring stuff back to the podcast, because ultimately we want to be talking about stuff that is useful for our audience. So ask questions in the YouTube comments. That's probably going to be the best place we've got community managers now who are checking all this stuff for us all the time and managing the socials. So they will pick up any questions and pull them into the next episode. So thank you, James Reeve. Appreciate you saying that. So the first question is from Dean K. Will they charge the annual property tax on existing homeowners who have already paid stamp duty when they purchased their house? So we did talk about this in a previous episode a few weeks ago now, when the new taxation stuff was circulated. I mean, Jack, you're going through a house purchase at the moment, or you've already purchased one or something like that. What do you make of this? Bear in mind, there's a certain threshold that this tax comes in. I think it's 500 grand or more. So if you're below that threshold, then you shouldn't have to worry anyway about the annual property tax. If you're above that threshold, then what do you think, Jack?
So the question, will they charge annual tax on existing homeowners we have already paid stamp duty on? I think they will, if I'm honest. But they haven't actually brought out. I mean, we have zero actual black and white facts on the stamp duty, so obviously the stamp duty changes that they were looking to generate is remove it from buyers and put it onto sellers. The reason that they want to do that is they want to move the value of so that the wealthiest generation in the UK is baby boomers. So if people selling their property who have the most money in the whole of the UK that's locked up in whatever they're doing with it, then when they come to sell their property and they just pay an estate agent's fee, the buyer paying the stamp duty is actually taking it from first-time buyers and people climbing the ladder and giving that value to the people that are already at sort of maturity of the ladder or downsizing. So that's why I think that they're incentivizing to do this. They haven't actually brought that out as fact and as a thing yet. I believe there will probably be relief that if you paid via stamp duty and land tax on a property, that you don't have to pay it on this exit, because then you're technically double dipping. But that's my opinion, not fact.
There's already this tax in place called the ATED, isn't it? The annual tax on enveloped dwellings but it's for companies that own residential properties in the UK, and it's tiered up from above 500,000. Do you think they try? Yeah, do you think they're trying? And it's a fixed amount per bracket. Do you think they're gonna? Do you think this? Obviously, nobody knows until it comes out, but do you think it's speculated that they're trying to match that with individual homeowners, not just companies that own UK properties?
Yeah, for the reasons Jack said, they're trying to take from the largest war chest in the UK is the war chest of mum and dad, isn't it? Because it's locked up in home equity and stuff like that. So this incentivizes them to not only start paying an annual contribution and pulling that wealth away from those people, but get them to move house as well and stimulate more of that market to the benefit of HMRC, not necessarily to the actual property market. But I think, Jack, to your point, I think they probably have to stipulate some kind of period, some kind of year period. So if within the last 4 years you've bought your home, you'll have the relief. But beyond 4 years, you may start paying the tax. I'm sure they'll come up with some quirky calculation to make people pay that as well. So Dean, sorry, there's just not enough. There's not enough information on this yet, but we can only speculate.
I mean, as soon as it comes out in the news, we'll be reporting on it from here. Well, from in the news, in the budget, or whenever it comes into play, we'll be talking about it. So, rest assured, Dean, stay with us.
Stay with us. Make sure you subscribed.
Don't leave
All right.
us.
Don't leave us. Next question from Gary Stephen Jones. The documentary Adolescence overall was all right, but what really was disingenuous due to the underlying hit piece it was doing on Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate didn't need to be included in it. They used him for marketing purposes. Like him or hate him, he has a positive influence on young men. He encourages hard work, accountability, fitness, creating families, and entrepreneurship. So it's the second part of this question that I'm interested in getting your guys' take on. Andrew Tate being a net positive influence on society. What do you think?
Firstly, the one thing I would like to say on the Adolescence, if anyone watched it, is just outside of the message second, in terms of a work of art, so to speak, or a thing. Doing all of that documentary filmed in one hit, so no cuts. I thought when you consider that's what they did and that's what come out of it, I thought that was extremely well prepared and probably that's why it's won awards as well, not just for the messaging, but that would be really difficult to do, doing all that without any edits, just in one take, continuous. So that I was very impressed by that. But I would agree. I don't think they needed to include Andrew Tate's name in it at all. But I think they did that because it would have obviously, it was hot at the topic at the time. But they could have just used a fake name or something. But I mean, look, I know Instagram and social media is quite deadly. Like it really is, especially for kids nowadays. I'm a firm believer that there should be an age limit really on when social media gets involved. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's something in that, mate. Yeah. Yeah, so kids can access the Nexus World Forum of content and nonsense that's out there. Yeah, it's not a bad idea, D. Let's lobby for that. But what do you reckon on Andrew Tate being a?
I think everything needs rebanding. Some states in the US, you can get a gender change before you're even allowed a tattoo.
That's just nuts, man. It's nuts, and it's just too much power for them, and they're just not prepared for it, and it's just crazy. Like the brain's still developing.
Yeah,
Completely
kids
agreed.
should be playing in the forest, jumping in lakes, pissing in bushes. That's what they should be doing at a young age, not
Living in an 1800s town, buying bread,
Exactly.
milk,
From the
eggs. That's
butchers.
it. Yeah.
That's it, mate.
Wi-Fi
So
is
what do
fine,
you?
though. They're not
What
allowed
do
the
you?
device, but they're allowed the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Um,
What do you think of Andrew Tate though? What do you think of Andrew Tate being a positive influence?
I mean, this splits the sea, doesn't it? Really, I think that um, do do I like Andrew Tate? I think that a lot of his sentiment of a free market, free movement, people being able to make the right decisions. I massively believe on his views of a traditional household. A male has a male's view, and a female has their role. And me and my wife both equally agree on that. Because if someone breaks into your home, your wife's not going to be the one getting them out of the house, and that is why the caveman-esque structure of a family household is the way it is. So I do probably, there's a lot of stuff that he says that I don't agree with, but I probably more generally agree to some degree with his sentiment. He leans into it a lot and he exaggerates a lot. That's what you've got to do in the modern world to stand out and to be a friction person to generate value and following. I also quite rate that he's willing to do time to get the right message across on social media. Do I think people below the age of 16 or 18 should be able to watch him? No, not at all. And when you're an adult, you can make your own judgment on someone and their message, and you're probably less likely to be chopping your nuts off because you've seen someone online at 18 years old as you would if you're 14 years old. So I think that my issue is more with censorship, like we talked about for younger ages. I don't mind Tate. I'd happily go for a beer with him. Like me and Alec, the war vet, we're going to go for a beer. Tatey, get Tatey out. He can come along.
Yeah, nice little threesome. Yeah.
That would be an interesting. Maybe we'll ask this question after this. If you could go to dinner with three people, dead or alive, who would you go with? But anyway, we'll come back to that. So generally, I think he's. I don't mind him, but I do take everything with a pinch of salt. I will always trust but verify, and also I do think he is a little bit overkill in many ways, and I can understand why people hate him.
Yeah. Well,
especially the major wokies.
Yeah, I think Andrew Tate has been certainly a force for good as a contrarian balance against the woke madness that's happened. So in that sense, I think he's definitely a net positive. At least there's someone who's become uber famous off the back of causes that otherwise aren't. Oh, diversity, equity, inclusion. This, feel sorry for myself. This, like, I love that. Love that he's fronting that message. I know people who've met him, and I know people who've spent a bit of time with him, and everyone thinks he's a bit of an arsehole. So there's that side of it as well. Like, I can't say it myself because I've not met him, but if someone's just an arsehole, I always struggle to think that they're a net positive, because you can be contrarian, you can speak for good values, you can do all these great things without being an arsehole, and then the other side of that is he's also made a lot of money, and he's grifted off the back of his fame and notoriety. So you kind of always wonder what someone's incentives are. But yeah, I'd rather slightly more Andrew Tates than I would Greta Thunberg's or Gary Economics. So
completely agree.
There we go. All right, this one is a little bit more of a deep dive. Okay, so thank you, the 6'9". Appreciate that. You're not wrong about the utilities and grocery stores, but that's conflating issues to minimize your own. Housing, this is referring back to a conversation we had on a previous podcast. Housing is and should be a right to all citizens. So mass private ownership to make a margin is just greed. We all know that housing markets increase. The corrupt banking institutions make sure of it. If government really had a say in the greed of the housing market capitalizing on rising housing prices, they would cap property value increases that prevent people from getting into homes, or limit the ownership of multiple for-profit properties. Margins shouldn't be made on the rent itself unless the house is then being sold to the current occupants for their ownership and residence. Because the whole point of profit from residential real estate should be the ever-increasing value of homes when they sell, not holding them forever to profit off renting and then profit massively off the sell. What do you guys think of this?
It's a goodie.
This is a goodie.
You've got to be
Dorian?
careful because he's taller than all of us at 6'9".
He is tall. Yeah, don't want him to find us.
I mean, I believe that if you're gonna cap profit made in real estate, why not cap everything? No business can make a margin. We all just take a quantitative amount across the population. Everyone has a fixed amount that we earn. Where's that going to take the world? On the other side, I believe currently that with all the property activity in the UK, if the government sorted their shit out, there wouldn't be a homelessness problem. So I think they're the leaky bucket, and you're pointing the finger at the wrong person. And under exactly the same structure that we're in at the moment, if they improve the process of planning, housing management, housing maintenance, leaning in and working with the private sector, I think that the government could house everyone in the UK, but under the steam of what we're providing in taxation, contributions, legislation, etc. So I think that this is kind of like a passive aggressive towards private capitalizing landlords and developers, but I actually think the problem is the government.
Amen, sister. Dorian, you're in the social housing space. What do you make of this?
I, respectively just disagree with it. So I think we've obviously been in the property space for a little while, and I think when you are in there, and as I've said before, I've seen it on the private investment side, the private development side, the social investment side, the institutional investment side, the political side. And I wholeheartedly agree with Jack. There's the reason why property prices, they will forever go up, but the reason why there's a shortage, the reason why they go up exponentially, the reason why the rent increases exponentially is really because of the fundamental decisions kind of government are making that stop it happening, stop development happening properly, effectively, and then that causes, like kind of what you mentioned, Ryan, they come in with regulation and it causes the secondary effect, which means you just can't build for the correct pricing, so costs have to go up. And then as the gentleman or ladies already said in the message, you're governed by banks. You cannot do a development in the UK unless you can prove you're making a 15% margin. You cannot get funding for a mortgage unless you can prove mortgage coverability, and mortgage coverability is stressed at a certain percentage of interest rate in the future. So therefore you have to be making more on your rent than you are charging as a mortgage. That is just how the economic fundamentals work at the base point. So that is the starting point, so you can never do what this message said. Even when local authorities own properties themselves, so at government level, they charge rent and service charges on their properties, which cover and exceed the cost of running those properties. So do housing associations, not-for-profit housing associations. Unfortunately, the message is just too ideological and doesn't reflect at all how the world works.
Yeah. Okay. Right, here we go. I want two things to caveat this, to kind of go back at this person with a bit of thought, and then I want to ask a question about the rights bit. So, number one, property, like any other asset class, like any other commodity or anything, is supply demand driven. And speaking to the boys' points here, anything the government does to distort that supply demand vector distorts free market capitalism. Free market capitalism is the ultimate force for good because it's sovereignty. It means the individuals, the people on balance, decide what happens to a market. Yes, you need regulation for safety, security, things like that, absolutely. But you don't need political regulation. You don't need the overbearing regulation that has come in that distorts the supply demand vector. That is what causes a shortage in supply, because simply there's people that want houses, and then there's the supply of houses. If we bring in mass immigration at a huge level as a net unproductivity, those people need to be housed, and that drives out those people who otherwise should deserve it, etc., etc. It goes on and on. So this government level affecting supply demand, that is the core of the issue. Now to go back to the 6'9" guy or gal, Jay, I don't know, it could be Jackie, it could be Jack. I mean, the human rights bit is a bit of a thingy, but to not make profit, let's think about this, what is the idea? It's a very Marxist view that you shouldn't make profit on property or any sector. It's crazy because it's all about incentives. If you can't make profit, then how on earth will the property sector, a vast employer, a huge infrastructure, huge material consumer, this big sector that has so much talent in it, why would people be incentivized to work there? Why would the best of the best come in and innovate new ideas and innovate better home standards and thermal efficiencies and new methods of construction and take us into the future, to adopt technology? Why would anyone do that if they can't make profit? Profit is the ultimate incentive metric in the capitalist structure, and it drives down costs. The concept of aiming for profit to produce a net better product or service drives down costs for the consumers. And every market that the government isn't involved in, that happens. That always plays out. It's a deflationary cost of goods and services. But property is so distorted by the government that it's like it's suspended by the bank and financial system, which tethers to our pound, because there's so much debt laden in it, and it's a political game for them as well, so they can control people. But if you can't make profit, then the best engineers, the best contractors, the best architects, they're not going to want to work there. They'll go work somewhere else. So the idea that you can't make profit from property is just so stupid, dumbfounded, and has no real place in modern economics. And it's just like, you need to really rethink like your understanding of the world if that's what you truly think. Then the other question to throw back at you two, unless you got anything to say about what I've just said.
I've got another point, but it might be similar to what your next point is. So
I was just going to say, do you think that property, do you think that having a house and a roof over your head is a human right?
I think as always, it depends. I think that if you're a contributor to society, then you should be paid for that, and then you should be able to afford. So that's 2 points there. A contributor to society and bringing in income, which is one part, and then two, the affordability of that property in line with what you're earning. So there's some responsibility on you as a person, then also potentially some community responsibility there as well. If you're unable to legitimately contribute, I do think that is a right, personally. If you've got disabilities, or were injured in workforce or whatever, and the company, the employer that employed you didn't have the right insurances in place or whatever it may be, then yes, I do feel like you should have that as a right. But that is a severe minority that are not contributing. Everything in between, like for example, war veterans that have represented the country and should be earned a pension contribution and should be able to live in this country without the concern of having a roof over the head, 100%. Taxpayers' money going on people that aren't necessarily righteous and contributing into the UK economy, no.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think there's definitely a social safety net, and you can think of many scenarios that are very minor scenarios in the grand scheme of the UK population, where people should have a right to be given housing through the taxpayer system, so that everyone, because you could be a taxpayer, you could be having this great life, blah 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 blah. You get hit by a car, you're a paraplegic, you can no longer work, and you should have a right to have a house. So everyone contributes into that system. Completely agree. Has that system been exploited? Because now, if you've got a little bit of a mental health issue, or you've got anxiety, now you need a house over your head, I think that's where it's gone ridiculous and crazy. And again, government has suspended that and allowed that to become an issue. And that all drives up the cost of housing, because the more on the taxpayer, the more taxes, the more that affects the free market economics, the more costs have to get repriced back in. So yeah, hopefully
let me just throw a case study at the 6'9", because I think that's more applicable. So let's assume I'm developing a site, and I'm actually using general numbers that of our numbers that we use here. So we're buying the site at about 100k a plot, and we're buying a commercial building that is no longer of use for an office company, because they don't use the office as much as they used to. So we've paid about 100k per plot. We also then have stamp duty. We then typically, because it's a VAT rated building, we then have stamp duty on that stamp duty. We then have various taxation events throughout the project. So VAT, contributions for professional fees for the council planning. We then also have Section 106, affordable housing contributions that go through that. We then might also have some other costs like SANG or SING, which are contributions to local communities. And we will then exit to rent or exit to sell. In either case, we pay tax on that. And if we make a profit, we then also pay tax on that profit. Everyone in the UK is arguing about property prices have gone up. It's not affordable to live in here anymore. And I do understand that the relative metric between your income salary against a house property purchase is not feasible. But people are managing to be able to afford to pay rent. People can pay £2,000 per rent per month for 3 years, but they can't get a mortgage that's £1,600 per month. So one problem is regulation around debt and being able to support people to get onto the property market. Second point, which is house prices that have increased. Everyone thinks that developers are greedy. I'll actually give you this. Back in the day, I think development in a rising market was the best market you could be in. There was a rule which is kind of true sentiment. Without all the legislation, fees, high cost of capital, it would typically be a third. So if you had a £3 million development site, you'd buy for £1 million, build for £1 million, and make £1 million. Our margins are so thin now that I would argue, if the 6'9", you can send me an example where a developer or a landlord has made more money than the government on their own portfolio that they've put their hard-earned time and risk into, I will hold my hands up. But I strongly believe that the taxation and the contributions to the government and the councils is greater than the profit we make, which means we're actually circulating and providing back into the market. And actually, the finger should be pointed at the cost of buying a property or renting a property is actually more of the government's problem, and we are taking less and less every year. So everyone's saying, £300,000 is the average purchase price of the property in the UK. Take a look at when 15 years ago it might have been 6 times your income, what tax out of that total delta of costs would be, and look at that now. That has been the biggest change. The biggest change of argument should be the cost that the government are charging to make housing more expensive. And they're not putting lending lines out there for the people to get onto the property ladder. So we're doing what we can do for less, and as right as the free market dictates it.
And huge risk to take on for those slim margins, like massive risk. There are much easier ways to make money in life than property development. Like it's a lot of risk you take on. But yeah, really well said, mate. Really good framing there, just on the difference of what does HMRC take from a property development cycle compared to what
Now.
they actually make. Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. And ultimately, this all comes back 6'9" to supply demand. If we could build more, then prices wouldn't go up in the rate they're going up. It just wouldn't. It just can't happen. And if we didn't bring in such a huge net migration amount, then there'd be less of a demand. So, and therefore prices would stabilize as well. So this is government issues. The developers are the saving grace, especially the SMEs, because we allow and create variety with different ideas. It's a lovely dynamic marketplace. To use a word, diversity is there's diverseness in multiple people thinking of different ideas to approach the built environment, compared to what's really happening, which is the institutionalization of this sector. And what you'll end up with is cardboard cutouts littering the landscape, from basically a race to the bottom on costs and trying to standardize everything to do with our built environment. And we'll end up with swaths of housing and flats that just look dreary and crap and overpriced. And that's where it's going. The more people like you, 6'9", who try and advocate for this stuff, the more you can watch the demise of our country and the landscape.
Also, on another point, let's take a family. So everything's changed since 20 years ago. Let's take, and we've talked about change in pattern and lifestyle, because we've talked about the eradication of pubs, because people don't spend every day in the pub anymore, blah, 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 blah. One strategy that both Ryan and I do quite heavily is HMOs. So if we take a 3-bedroom property, which is now not affordable to people wanting to get onto the property ladder, and that is why the average first-time buyer age is 33 in the UK. So we're taking this. So our entrepreneurialism is buying something that's not fit for today's market because of the things that we discussed: cost of living, cost of finance, no debt, no debt available to prove the affordability for people's income, which is a bigger government thing. I can't control what Goldman Sachs pay their staff, or what Superdrug pay their staff. That's not even we're at the bottom when the fees are going towards the living. We're taking that unaffordable property for someone between the age of 20 and 40 is our typical catchment, but obviously anyone can live in our houses, and we're converting that 3-bedroom home into a 6-bedroom home. Our profit is on the 2 additional rooms that we've generated, but we're actually creating 6 lettable spaces for the private market for people that can't afford to rent a 1-bedroom flat. To rent a 1-bedroom flat where I live is about £1,300, £1,400 per month. Plus you've got council tax bills, utilities, etc. So you're in for about £2,000 per month. We charge £850. So we've reshaped something completely in housing that, yes, it's making some margin so we can do more, but it's making it more cost effective for the consumer that can't buy a home. Now, if you work out the maths on that, £850 a month versus £2,000 per month, the average deposit in the UK for a first-time buyer, I don't actually know the figure off the top of my head, but let's just say it's about 50k. We're supporting that individual to get onto the property ladder far greater than them going into a standard housing product like a 1-bedroom flat or a 2-bedroom flat. So we're actually providing a solution while profiteering, so that we can grow. And that is entrepreneurialism. Like, everyone wins in that situation. I don't understand one person that doesn't win in that situation. You could argue we're removing a 3-bedroom family home from the market, but we're putting back 6. Now, how does that look? Let's build more housing. So then there's more supply, costs come down for everyone. So the developer and the landlord in our scenario is making things better for the consumers. But unfortunately, we have consumers that just don't understand it and fight against us. Imagine that. Imagine being in an industry where you're providing solutions and people just keep hacking at you rather than looking at the bigger picture.
Let me come back at some of the things they might fight on there, just for a lack of understanding, because I agree with everything you've said. Yeah, here's some case studies of where we've bought properties. We've bought houses and turned them into HMOs where they've been sat on the market for ages, and they're in, some of them not in great condition. And a lot of the time, there's usually an elderly lady or an elderly bloke in there who may have lost their loved one, and they no longer have a use for that house. They want to get shot of the property. but no family. There's usually not enough supply, enough demand of families that want to come in and take on that house and take on the renovation costs and those sorts of things. And that's where HMO is great, because we're taking something that's defunct and has one person living in there and it's deteriorated, and we're now allowing 6 people with higher levels of freedom of movement, so they can work within that vicinity, which helps local employers. They can save money, etc., etc. It is a net positive. Caveat though, it should be regulated on density, and that's where the council and planning comes in. And I believe that I strongly believe that there should be regulation around the density of HMOs, so that we don't change the street scenes too much, so that family communities don't just become bolstered, working professional, like kind of livestock or student, areas. Like, there does need to be a control of density. I completely agree with that. But so long as we build more, because if we don't build more for the families and build new housing estates and new apartment buildings, then eventually, there is going to be this over density of HMOs, because HMOs are a solution to a problem of the supply demand issue. Ultimately, if we built loads of flats and loads of houses, you wouldn't need HMOs, because the cost of living would be cheap enough. So it's just crazy backward thinking. Right, next question. Eternity Accountants. Really valuable podcast. Tip for new property investors. Take notes on both the successes and mistakes. They're gold for avoiding costly errors. Also connect with other listeners to share insights and build your own property network. So that wasn't a question, but it was just a nice comment. Thank you for that. And join the Ground Up Network if you want to really build a deep network of people. It's cool now. On the Ground Up Network, everyone kind of knows each other, and obviously come into some of the events we're doing as well. And it's like there's a community spirit kind of building.
How many have we got coming for go-karting this month?
I think it's gonna be like 35 of us, something like that. I think a few more tickets will probably
nice.
sell. Yeah,
that'd be good.
Be lovely. All right. The next one is this is a statement, and I just wondered if you guys had anything to rebuttal against this. Thank you, Stale Furset, for your question or statement. Housing market is crashing. Good luck. What do you guys think? Do you think the housing market's crashing? Do you think it will crash? Hello, dog. Hello, woofer.
Have you
He's a big boy, isn't
he? Yeah, he is. The phrase "a broken clock" is correct twice a day. I mean, it will kilter or crash at some point. That's just fact. It depends what business model you're in, and depends how you're playing the game, I suppose. I mean, back to the point of rentals, that's kind of why some of us underpin our portfolios with rental income, because it's more secure and stable than taking a punt on open market sales over a couple of years. I don't really know what Stale First Set 9444 what really wants us to say. Really, it's kind of like you might get hit by a bus, you might not. Good luck. Like it's what can we say? You're kind of wrong and right in the same sentence. We never know what we're dealing with. You've got to deal with what's in front of you. And I don't think it needs a time of day, if I'm honest.
Doesn't massively, no. D, do you think the housing market's crashing?
I think, well, we operate in a niche, don't we? So it's something that we try to look at the moving parts as much as possible. And Jack's right, it's not the matter of if, it's just when. Like and it also happens at different extremes at different parts of the UK, and different sectors get hit. So I think it's a good message, because as anybody in this sector, if they constantly revisit this statement but don't get paralyzed with fear, which I'm assuming the author of this statement may have done, i.e. they've put this statement out there and not doing anything because it could happen. Well, what my take on it is, the housing market will crash. The question now we've got to do is try to make calculated decisions. As I've just mentioned it, what area are we operating in? What's the macroeconomics? What's the sector we're in? How we protecting our downside? You can still operate in a crashing market. It's not, it's Jack mentioned about the 3 people we'd take for dinner. I was thinking about that question, and one of the guys that popped in my head, it wasn't my answer in the end, but was Sam Zell. He built a portfolio, and he was doing deals in downturns as well as upturns, upcycles. So it's just it's a good reminder. Everybody in this sector should be thinking about that. But what you shouldn't do is not take any action off the back of it and just be paralyzed. You'll never get anywhere. Any business can crash. any economy can crash. Any line of product can go out of fashion the very next day because something new's come out. This is business. That's the game.
Amen, brother. Amen. All right, next one then. Bradley Meister, thanks for the question. Possibility that HMO market is a bubble, inflated commercial yields in low value areas, etc. So I've actually spoke about this before to do in the in northern areas of the UK, and that yes, there may be an issue there, but if rents keep going up, then obviously that only supports this kind of crystallized debt amounts that you have at the point of taking on the mortgage, and ultimately your risk is within that fixed term. So, and with the way the property market is going, with just a serious shortage of supply, I think there is going to be stability there, but it's not a sustainable model for the long term. This idea of commercial valuations massively outstripping VP valuations or vacant possession valuations, i.e., what that bricks and mortar asset would sell for in the going market outside of HMO consideration. There's the delta cannot be as extreme as it is for the long term, but for the next 5 years on a fixed rate, will you be okay with the way inflation's going and the likelihood of rents increasing? I think you're going to be probably all right for a while. There doesn't seem to be a sign that it's turning, but it's a potential issue. I don't think you'll have that problem in the South, Jack, because you're generally working off bricks and mortar values anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, our bricks and mortar valuation is greater than our rental valuation, which is kind of like an opposite problem, right? It's if the housing market then takes a hit, you then rely on your rental income. But essentially, what Bradley's saying is commercial valuations and bricks and mortar valuation, two different rental valuation structures. One's based on income and one's based on demand and comparable evidence in that area of what stuff is selling for. So that delta between the two, the bigger that gap, the riskier the business model that you're in. And essentially this commercial valuation yields is quite dangerous, as Ryan discussed, because if you're going off a commercial valuation and you build in negative equity against the bricks and mortar valuation, and then saturation comes in, so room rates drop or rental rates drop, then your commercial values come down. So you're building in negative equity. I personally feel that there's such a strong demand for HMOs for the reasons I literally just discussed about the taxation and actually providing a cheaper solution that's typically better quality in a market space for the ages between 20 and 40 years old. I think that HMOs are here for a while. I think that there's some people doing them badly, and I think that sometimes builds a stigma around a HMO. But I think the actual product is really valuable in the market. What we do is we just make sure that most of our portfolio is based on bricks and mortar, and the delta between the two is really limited. We've actually seen it. So, rather than just saying, our HMO portfolio is great, this, that, and the other, we've actually seen the downsides of a commercial valuation. Our social housing portfolio dropped about 4 million quid in about 3 months because the commercial market's dropped. It's now recovering, but that's just an example of how the volatility in commercial valuations.
Yeah. Nice. Won't come to you on D on that one because HMO stuff.
Should we do the dinner? Who's coming to our dinners?
Well, this is our last question. Then we'll go dinners. All right. Because this one, D. Take this one away, mate. The best Brooker. Thank you for your question. Advice for a teenager who needs to stop being so closed off. Just thought it was a different kind of question.
What does closed off mean?
I suppose closed off from wanting to socialize with people, take opportunities, be out of their comfort zone.
Whatever you think it should be, that's why we're getting 3 opinions, Doz.
Dizzler.
Who needs to stop being so closed off?
I think this is a difficult one because one stretch of my advice giving is quite straightforward and is very much just like stop being closed off. But that's oversimplifying.
Really good advice, that actually.
Really good, actually. Yeah, moving.
I don't think we need to cover any more there. I think we've covered that one.
but I with the only thing I could say is it's like you have to ideally figure out what it is that you want, or try to do some root cause analysis as to why you feel like you're being closed off. And then it's all about self-development. And I've said it before on this podcast as well. It's knowledge and network opportunities will come from it. So in terms of knowledge, you start reading. Is it lack of confidence? Enroll yourself into a Toastmasters if you need to, which is a public speaking like training and networking club, and your confidence will grow. Put yourself out your comfort zone in a controlled environment. Like people don't know this of me, but when I was a kid, this is actually a secret of mine, so I'm just going to put it back out there now for the ether. I actually went to drama school for a period of time, drama club, which is when I was a kid. And I tell you what, the bit I loved in that was improv, which was like you're stood in front of a group of people that are within four walls, and everybody's in the same boat as you, and it's just like, right, take it away. And you just got to make something up, make a play up, make a speech up, make a poem up on the spot, balls it up, whatever. And I've done public speaking stuff as well, and I've read tons and tons of books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, those old classics, all the way to the newer stuff like Scaling Up and biographies of business people. So I mean, unfortunately, that's what my advice would be. Do get yourself into controlled. Well, first you do some root cause analysis to figure out why you think you're being closed off. Is it genuinely anxiety, lack of confidence, don't want to don't want to sound stupid, don't like hearing the word no, scared, and be honest and real with yourself. And only when you do that can you actually then start finding the opportunity to move forward. And if you feel like you can't speak to anybody in today's world, you are blessed because you have ChatGPT, which can act as some form of guidance coach on a basic level, or to be fair, even an intermediate level, helping you get all your thoughts out and with some constructive steps. But you have to, sooner or later, you're going to have to start taking some action to get it out of it. And no, yeah, it is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary, but that is the way it works.
Beautiful, D. My answer is kind of similar to yours in a sort of way, but I'll make this very direct for anyone out there because this has worked for me time and time again in the past, and especially for young people, but works for adults and anyone else. Yeah, if you're feeling closed off, if you're feeling like you're a bit lost, or if you're feeling like you need to do something with your life or have a change of direction, I think number one, the best thing you can do is join a sports team of some sort. Get good at a sport. It could be swimming, it could be a running club, it could be football, netball, basketball, go-kart, whatever it is. When you have a common interest with another group of people, whatever walk of life they're from, you will build community, you will build a sense of direction, and you'll find fulfillment. That also works for just community in general. And I can speak to my experience. I mean, I did a lot of sports as a kid, and that massively, massively helped me because it just gives you direction. It gives you a people. It gives you your tribe that you have the same common cause with. But I actually did this in property. When I got to a point where I was like, I need people, because when you're the head of a business or you're the developer end, it can feel very lonely and you want to be around others. And that's when I joined the developers club. I joined the developers club, met these lovely gentlemen, and met a load of other people, kindred spirits, all in the same space, and it helped give me that commune that I wanted at the level of operations that I'm wanting. This is slightly more talking on a business level, but also just socially, because now Jack, D, Stu, Jim, and others all operate in the same space with the same issues, and that gives me the commune that I want, so I can share my problems, or they can share their problems, or share ideas. And I just think there's nothing better. Human beings need community. So if you're feeling closed off, join a community of some sort. Could be a chess club, could be a sports team, could be a developers club. I just think that's the best thing you can do, and from there you will find opportunity and do other things. Jack, what would you say?
I mean, you guys have covered it off really well. Outside of that, I would just say reach out to some peers or family or friends or grandparents that you can bring on the journey with you. So tell them, be open about, obviously people that you're comfortable speaking with openly. Going into a room and standing up and telling everyone for 20 seconds what you do is quite daunting. But if you told a close member of your family or someone that you can confide in, share that with them so that they can be there for and rooting for you on your journey and help you. So confide in someone sort of in the same household. Next one is lean into your strengths. Your strengths might not be being a social butterfly, and that's okay. Your skills might be more engineering heavy, might be more numbers focused, might be working behind the scenes. So it's not a bad thing if you struggle to be a social or in front or a front of house. That's not everyone's skill set. Really good book to read is Your Life, Your Legacy by Roger Hamilton, where he talks you through billionaires and really successful people's personality traits and what they're best at and when they lean into that. So you don't see Warren Buffett doing TV shows, and you don't see, let me try and think of a famous TV show, Jonathan Ross doing like investment sort of gig. They're two different personality profiles. So that's the show. Lean into your strengths. Think to yourself, and then that's sort of a mindset thing. A few things here is that they did an interview with elderly people on their deathbed and asked them, what they wish they did more of, and it was the things they didn't do that they regretted, rather than things that they did do. Basically, giving you a free pass of try that, take that next opportunity, go to lunch with that next person, say yes, because then you can build on that, and just rather than being a hermit, you'll get more value from, even if you meet with someone and it was an invaluable lunch, at least you've done it and you know more. So for me, I always think that every second of every day is a learning, and you should be giving yourself the opportunity to go and make mistakes, meet new people, learn from others, completely go off tangent and then come back. Do all of those things because they're really, really valuable. And then last but not least, what have you got to lose by doing that? Typically nothing. So hopefully a bit of mindset stuff there, but it never gets easier. I was actually chatting to our lead surveyor the other day because we're talking about his growth in the company and how we want him to go to events. And he sort of said events aren't really his thing. He doesn't like walking up to a group of 6 people, having a chat and going, "Hi, I'm Jack." And I said, that never goes away. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I just do it to push myself out of my comfort zone. And I know that once it's done, it's done. And it actually, you think something feels weirder than it actually is. If you were in that people's shoes, you just go, "Oh, he's confident," or "He's come over, fair play. He's come over and said hello. Let's give him the time of day."
It's always funny, that, isn't it, when you're at an event and there's like a group of 3 people or 4 people talking, and you just walk straight over to them on the edge, and then the only way to get in is you just by saying, "Excusez-moi, merci beaucoup. My name's Dorian." No, you don't obviously say that, but you, whatever your icebreaker is.
If that follower is listening to this episode, if you could DM either me, Rye, Dorian, or Matt Chivers from Beaumont and Partners that runs our network, saying it's you and coming forward, we will bring you into the network on a 7-day free trial, do the live Q&A, knowing that you're a little bit uncomfortable, and help you so that you can just be a fly in the wall in that episode. And I'm sure, hopefully, that will give you another step in the right direction.
And social skills are all that's what they are. They are skills, and I think sales is just. I just love sales as like an aptitude for. I think everyone should just at some point have learned sales, especially as when people are young, because it gives you, like, when you are walking up to a group of strangers at an event or at a thing, and people feel a bit nervous. Everyone gets it. Everyone's like, "Oh, I don't know these people." It's innate in our psyche to feel slightly uneasy around people we don't know. But if you've got good sales acumen, you can just go to a list of lines, a list of scripts that you know in your head, to ask them questions of intrigue, get to know people, and then if they ask you about yourself, and then spin that into a new question. And there's so many things you can do so that you're armed without going up to someone and going, "Hello, I don't know what to say because I've not been in this situation before." Practice saying things and asking
But equally,
questions.
saying that is fine. It's better than saying nothing.
Yeah, better than doing nothing and sitting there on your own eating your sandwich. All right, last thing then, Jack, what were you saying about, so 3 people, dead or alive, so you and 3 people at a dinner, who would you take?
It's toughy, isn't it? I mean, I like having fun, and I love learning about business and mindset and things like that. I think I'd probably have to go with like a cliche of someone like Hitler, just to understand how his mind works, why he did it. I'm going to start us there.
I see where we're going.
It does get better. And then I think so if it was 3 others, I'd probably go, or equally, I'd also wouldn't mind trading Hitler out for like someone like Winston Churchill. But leave that for now. Either Hitler or Winston, because they won't come to the same dinner.
Why not both?
I was going to say, that was.
Yeah, and then I'd love to meet Elon Musk face to face, and then I absolutely love Ricky Gervais. So I'd want Ricky there to soften it.
Soften the blow. Okay, yeah. Ricky was going to be one of my choices. Go on, D. 3 people.
Well, mine feels boring now then, so I don't have any comedians at mine. So it'll be myself making the jokes, mainly about where Jack's from in his brown suit. But in terms of the dinner guests, I would say number one, Alan Cherry, the founder of Countryside Properties, and although a different era, I think it'd still be, obviously we're hyper niche in what we do, so kind of they scaled the largest in that sector. So that would be one. Second one would be again, it's well, I find it fascinating. Isambard Brunel, don't know if you guys know him, but he's the one who designed the Great Western Railway, the bridges, one of the suspension bridges,
engineer, Brunel.
yeah, engineer, one of the greatest engineers. So, but the reason why is just because of that grand thinking, basically, of stuff that's not been done. And then, thirdly, somebody who is alive would be Vern Harnish, who's all about business. Is the founder of, author of Scaling Up and several other business books. So it would be a very intellectual and business-driven and grand visionary dinner for sure. That's how it would feel.
Okay. I think I'd go. I think I'd go more down the route of heated debate. So I'd choose Jesus Christ, the Prophet Muhammad, and Genghis Khan, and we'd all play board games. We'd start with Monopoly, finish on a bit of Twister, see who comes out on top. And I'm
Hope it's
sure
not
it'd be-
boozy naked Twister.
Yeah, of course it will be.
Jesus has only got one go, and then he's robes off. You've got the advantage, one sock removal.
I mean, yeah, it'd be a good discussion. We'll see what happens. I feel like Genghis Khan would win any debate, though. I feel like we'd let him have that one.
Well, it depends. Is he allowed to take weapons?
No, of course not. He can try use a fork if he wants. No, it's got to be peaceful. Just debate, just verbal debate.
The Mongolian horse riding archery is very, very impressive if you've seen it.
I haven't, mate, but it sounds impressive. Sounds like a lot to take in.
Sounds like I could spend a few hours at night when I should be sleeping, watching that.
I'll have a look later, mate. I'll let you know. Well, I think that takes us to a nice rounded near hour and a half. So thank you, everyone who's tuned in. Big love. We should have Stuart back next week, which would be good. And make sure you subscribe. Just please subscribe. It helps us out, subscribe to the channel and ask questions if you want us to. It could be anything. As you can see from this episode, we'll answer anything. The budget is coming closer and closer and closer, and we will do as much coverage as we can on the budget. And yeah, we'll see you.
If that crashes the property market?
No, then we're fucked, aren't we, Jack?
Oh.
We'll move to Dubai. All right, big love. See you next week.
Ground up sound. Ooh, yeah. Real estate deal. We lay 'em